In vectors and rasters, I gave you an overview and I showed you the difference between what an image in Illustrator as a vector and Photoshop as a raster looks like, even though they look the same from a certain distance. Now, this is a pure raster image that started out with vectors. And let me jump over to Illustrator. Now, just know, I'm not going to explain what I'm doing. This is just for demonstration purposes. I will teach you all these skills in the future. But for right now, it would take too long to explain all this stuff. So I'm going to click on this meatball to select everything on that layer, copy it, switch back over to Photoshop, open a new document. It's going to say, hey, this is how big that image is. It's pretty small, 470 pixels. I want 3,000 pixels. 3,000. And I have no idea if I'm going to save this, so I'm not going to title it. It's RGB, that's just fine. I create that thing. Command V to paste this, and I'm going to paste it as a smart object. And I'll explain what a smart object is later. But because this is vector information, I can scale it up without losing any detail whatsoever. Now, I want to begin. I'm going to unlock this background layer. Do I want that background to be black or white? And I'm filling in the background. You notice I didn't draw a rectangle like I did in Illustrator. I'm just using the keyboard shortcut in order to change the fill of the background. See how it's black over here now? And this is exactly like it looked like in Illustrator, right? Right? Okay, so I come up here. What can we do from here? Hey, I'm going to make a new layer. I'm going to merge the visible elements onto that new layer. This is now raster imagery. This is a vector because it says vector smart object, okay? This is raster imagery, and now what can I do to this? Well, I'm going to Command 0 to make this thing bigger. I'm going to find the edges on there. Then I'm going to change the blend mode, and I'm going to change it over to divide so I get these cool lines around this, and then I'm going to make a new layer, merge everything on that layer, turn it into a smart object, and take it into Camera Raw. And these are all custom keyboard shortcuts that I've set up. And then I'm going to play around. What happens if I play with dehaze and the contrast a little bit? What happens if I tone down the shadows? What happens if I bring those whites down? We start getting a lot more detail. We still don't have that black showing up, but that's just because of the color of the background. We can take the vibrance down a little, or we take it right there, take it back to 0 and say, hey, those purples are a little hot. Maybe I can come into this channel, make sure I'm on saturation, lower the saturation of those purples, maybe the oranges and yellows too a little bit, greens just a touch. Say, yeah, that looks pretty good. What happens if I come over here, add a little vignette to the outer edge, and then come back here, throw a little S-curve on this in order to give it a little more pop. Come back into this channel. This Camera Raw is really powerful. What happens if I dim out those highlights, make them a little brighter? What do we like better? Then I can hit the letter P. This is where we started. This is where we are. So we have significant changes to this. And the cool thing about this when I hit return is that if I don't like this, because it's a smart object, I can double click on this and I can make changes to it. Hey, I want to change, what happens if we make this, bring out those yellows a little bit more, and then maybe pump up the blacks a little and say, yeah, that's looking kind of cool. Say OK, make a new layer, merge all that stuff onto here. What happens if I hit Command T to transform, Command minus, make this thing a little smaller? What happens if we pop this out a little bit, maybe rotate it a touch, and then hit return, and then change the blending modes? That's interesting. Running through these blend modes, we get some different effects. Kind of looks cool what's going on here. Okay, the idea here is I don't want you to learn how to do this right now, but this is the difference between Photoshop and Illustrator, that Illustrator's got all this fine-tuned vector control, and Photoshop can do all these wild different things. And what happens if we jump down here to difference? There are countless things we can do in here and all kinds of different results we can wind up with. But I want you to understand that you have to wrap your head around what I'm going to be trying to teach you in order for you to embrace all this and understand, hey, I'd kind of like to learn how to do that. How did he do that with the keyboard and all that? And yeah, there's ways to do it through the menu and through pull-down menus, these little hamburger menus and all that. But why waste your time when you can learn how to do this like a pro? Okay, this right here, let's say I did like this. Hey, it's too hot though. I'm going to take this back into Camera Raw. I want to cool this down a little bit. What happens if I just dump that saturation down a little bit? That might look cool. Bump up the blacks. You know, all of this is editable after the fact. That's the cool thing about working smart with smart objects and with controlled transitions into raster. All right, you guys, is this ready for prime time? No, it's not. I don't like this. I'd throw it away and I'd try again. But all this is for demo purposes, and I want to show you that you can become a pro in Photoshop and do all kinds of great things if you want to learn.